Their worth is tied to their if they're
Yes.
not performing, they don't have value. Now,
No.
sweetness, that could be performing as a mom, as a wife, as a daughter, as the employee, as a best friend, wherever it might be. But we push ourselves so hard. And to learn to hold space, to just be.
Electricast. Welcome to Season 4 of Transforming 45. I'm your host, Lisa Boat, and this season we're stepping fully into our power. The heat, the hormones, the heartbreak, the healing. This is midlife, raw and redefined. Each episode, you'll hear stories of humans who are rewriting the rules, reclaiming their bodies, their desires, their voices. This is where we stop shrinking, start shining, and remember who the hell we are. Because midlife isn't a crisis, it's an awakening. Let's get transforming 45.
Hey, and welcome to this week's episode of Transforming 45. This week, I would like for all of you to meet Julie Merriman, a PhD certified sex counselor, trauma specialist, and the woman behind Soul Joy, and her new book, Are We Going to Have Sex or Not? For over 25 years, she's been helping high achieving women break from the virtuous trap of self sacrifice. The one that looks good on paper, but quietly drains the life out of you. She blends neuroscience, somatics, and straight up truth to wake women up to one thing. Midlife isn't a decline, it's your reclamation moment. Julie, my nervous system needs you. I'm so glad that you are here today.
Girl, it is such an honor to be here with you, Lisa. Thank you.
What is the virtuous trap, and why do so many of us get stuck in it?
That is such a layered answer. And I'm going to start with what research has shown me and anecdotal information has shown me working with women for feels like forever. What happens, and it happens pretty early. I also call it the good girl trap. We learn pretty early as women if we appease and please, and I'm talking, of course, I was born in the early 60s, so it was a different time to raise children, but we were learned pretty early if we appease and please, we get to stay with the tribe, right? And we get to survive and live, if you will. And that follows us through life. We get good grades and we get all kinds of attention. We volunteer at the nursing home in ninth grade and we get all kinds of kudos. We go into college. Yeah, I mean, we end up in our career and we're the ones that stay till 10 o'clock at night. We're the ones that are scanning the environment, our poor amygdalas, which they're doing what they're supposed to
Yes.
do. And you were
Yes.
saying something came to you.
Yeah, I wanted to. So, one, all that you're talking about, I describe as the choreography, right? There was choreography that was very specifically scripted for us, and we followed it, right? We did
To a T.
all the things. But I wanted to highlight what you were saying about the scanning. It's something that I didn't even, oh gosh, I did not anticipate getting emotional about this, but it's something I didn't even notice that I did until a few months ago. But that when I enter a room, the first thing I do is scan for who feels off and how do I fix it? So not just like the scan, but what do I have to do to make this place safe for everybody?
'Cause I'm responsible. It's that overfunctioning. I'm that over responsibility. We're scanning for people's needs before they even know they have those needs. We swallow our truth to keep the peace. And my therapist is coming up. Yeah, it is emotional, sweetie, because our nervous system has been living on this for God knows how long. It's a cocktail and it's an interesting cocktail of there's dopamine that hits because when we help, we get a little dopamine hit. So we're like, ooh, we like that. But we're also living on cortisol and adrenaline because our body, after so many years of being virtuous and serving and giving and not refilling our own cup. And I like to say, I don't like to say it, but here's what I've seen. We become these floating heads of competence who are not connected to our bodies, and we become empty cups. That flippin' myth that you can't pour from an empty cup can go to flippin' cheap devil toothpicks. We do give from an empty cup. We become that cup, and we
Yeah.
become numb and empty, full of, well, girl, our nervous system, good old polyvagal theory, thank you, Dr. Porhays, We have been living in survival mode for so long, we don't know how to come out of it. We when we try to, we don't feel comfortable in our skin. We're like, "Oh my god, I can't do this."
Absolutely. I was just having this conversation with I was on her podcast, Andrea Donsky, and what I said to her was, I am so tired of feeling like I have to be exceptional all the time, that exception is the baseline, but I have no idea how to stop because it's been the expectation my entire life.
Right. Yeah, and who the hell am I if I stop? I cease to exist if I stop. I mean, that's what we're telling our nerve. We're not meaning to. It's subconscious. The nervous system is functioning in this survival mode. So we have this constant tiger or elephant or whatever it might be chasing us, thinking we're going to die if we don't continue serving. If we could not possibly set a boundary. I have to be able to serve. That's the most selfish, ludicrous thing I could hear. I mean, it, and it's kind of it's a twofold thing. Well, it's more than that, but it's our nervous system, but we cannot ignore what we're saying to ourselves because that keeps that nervous system triggered and going. And our body, here's the saddest thing, Lisa, our body doesn't feel safe to live in because we are in that survival mode. And I go into chakra psychology in the work I do, and that's very much a root chakra issue. That's where our safety lives. That's a place that we've got to get balanced. But we just push through. I mean, just what you're saying a moment ago. I don't know how, so I'm just going to push through. I have to be exceptional.
I love that you just pushed back against the you can't pour from an empty cup because it's like a platitude, right? But the visual of us being the cup that's really hitting me of like, yeah, I am the cup. It doesn't matter if there's nothing in it or not. I am still pouring out and giving to other people. It just means that my cup is crumbling.
Right. Yeah. Girl, that is exactly right. That's exactly what's going to happen. We end up giving ourselves a DSM diagnosis,
Yeah.
for pushing and pushing because we just don't know how to stop. We don't know how to come off of that. And here's what I've really found. Because I've been a professor, a dean. I've been at a university level for a long time. Where a lot of who in the hell goes to get a PhD? I'm just here to tell you, it's not something we need to survive. But just those that go to do it just kinda like,
Mhm.
stuck exceptional. But if their performance, their worth is tied to their performance, and if they're not performing, they don't have value. Now, sweetness, that could be performing as a mom, as a wife, as a daughter, as the employee, as a best friend, wherever it might be. But we push ourselves so hard. And to learn to hold space, to just be, it's terrifying.
It is terrifying. And I just this week came to here we go into my dreams, but here's one that I had because it was very clear and specific. I was in this room and there was this big body of water and there was this man, I don't know who it was, but he was like, there's this big metal structure at the bottom of this pool. We got to pull it up to the top. And he's like, come on, let's go. Let's get in there. Let's do it. And I was like, okay, sure. I volunteered to jump in this pool of water and try to lift this massive metal structure to the surface, which couldn't be done.
Right. You
And
volunteered to do the impossible. I'm
I
gonna do this.
volunteered to do the impossible, and then I was sitting on the side of the pool with him, and he said, "What do you think it is that makes you try to do these superhuman things all the time?" And I said, "Because I am never chosen." And I think also, like, we're terrified of what happens to our identity if we're not doing everything, if we're not being the virtuous woman, and also terrified that no one will choose us if we show up as our actual selves.
Yeah.
And so there's these two sides of like wrestling with ourselves, but also with the expectation, right? The expectation of what I need to be for anyone else to love me.
Yeah. Am I lovable? I mean, that's that core issue. Am I lovable? And if I'm not, I'm gonna get abandoned. And if I'm abandoned, I'm gonna die. I mean, that subconscious is not gonna come forward just the immediate thought, but that's very That's inner child work there. Those are very primitive, very early, maybe even in your DNA genetic kind of messages that come forward for us as women. Not
Yeah.
just women, just as humans. But in our society, women are very much, girl, you're going to work your 12-hour day. Here's my first book I wrote in Pursuit of Soul Joy was all about my burn, crash and burn. I can't say it. And I was about, y'all, I was between 40 and 45. I can't remember because I was so
It's
burnt
when
out. I
that's
can't
when it
remember.
happens every
Yes.
time. Yeah.
Well, I had um I had married at 16 to a man that no, that's a whole story itself, and I won't go deep into that. But but to a man that looked like he was going to give me attention, but that attention was abuse. He told me I was too stupid to go to college. And he's very controlling. So I believed I was too dumb to even try college. So when I did make it to college, I always felt like I was behind. And I know I'm not the only one, ladies, I'm talking to you. We feel like we have to prove something. We have to catch up. I'm behind. Something's wrong with me. So I've got to work extra hard to prove myself. And that followed me. I'm getting up at 5 a.m. teaching aerobic, then to step class and kickboxing. But then going to my day job, my 8 to 5, where of course, I'm the director. We can't just be an employee, right?
No.
And then I leave that job and I go to my private practice as a counselor and I work till 9 or so at night to prove I can do this because something is wrong with me. So I've got to be better than everyone else. I mean, I wasn't. That's not what I'm saying, but just the effort. And I was on stage, gave my presentation. Girl, it was a standing ovation. And from the outside, it looked successful. I walked off that stage. I was numb. I didn't feel any of it. I was depressed as I came off that stage. And that's when it hit me, girl, something ain't right. And I was so burned out and so compassion fatigued and so emotionally dysregulated. Something had to change. And that was scary. Let me tell you, that was scary to do something different. Let me
It's
say,
very scary. Yeah.
yeah,
It echoes my own story very closely. Mine was the leaving my career to start something totally different, but it was for all the same reasons where I felt nothing
yeah,
literally ever. Like I
yeah,
didn't ever feel really happy. I didn't ever feel really sad. I just was always on this very level. I was just always in this really level space because I was numb and felt nothing. And it was same. I had that realization of something's not right. I should be feeling things and I'm not.
yeah.
So what physiologically is happening in our bodies when we're at that stage? And then how do we start to thaw? How do we start to reconnect so that we can feel again?
Love that. Physiologically, you're in functional freeze. You have been in sympathetic or dorsal state for so long. Sympathetic, fight or flight, you're just gonna, or dorsal is just the freeze, the fawning, where you leave your body. You're no longer inside that body. And that's part of being in that survival state for so long. Who have we and y'all first, I don't want to shame anyone. We want to I'm an IFS therapist as well as an EMDR therapist. So we want to love that part of our self.
Yep. I just want to hop in and say IFS is internal family systems, right? Which is a really powerful process of reclamation and getting to know self.
Absolutely. And with eye movement, desensitization, reprocessing, those are very powerful together. But our nervous system is doing its job. It's been scanning. That amygdala's job back from when dinosaurs roamed this earth was to keep us safe. And our ancestors were really good at it because we're still here. So first, we just want to love ourselves for what we've done to survive. That's okay. That's okay. Hold space for that. Love yourself for that. But what's happened, we've stayed in that functional freeze, that survival state for so long. Our frontal lobe, our brain is very selfish with energy. And so the brain says, well, this chickie poo doesn't need, doesn't need desire, doesn't need pleasure. We'll think about digestion. Maybe we'll let her know she's hungry. Not all the time. That interception goes offline because we've ignored ourselves for so long. So we feel very numb, and that flat line you're talking about is very common. And we've become this floating head of competence. We're so disembodied that it takes something for us to go, wait a minute, I don't even feel. Remember what Christmas felt like at 4 years old and you go get Santa Claus?
Yes.
Remember what it felt like when, I don't know, your first dog died. I'm sorry, but something that made you sad. I mean, those are very important emotions that we need to be able to feel, but we've lost that ability because our brain has said, shit, she doesn't need that. She just needs to survive. Dopamine receptors are screwed up as well when we are in that state because our brain is trying to figure out what is she doing here? I don't know. I don't know. So it takes a hot minute. And I'm just saying this because I want y'all to know it's going to take a hot minute to thaw. And it's not going to be fun to thaw. I just had a session with a lady yesterday, bless her heart. And I'm 63. She's more my age, but ladies, 63 is good. Hang in
Thank
there.
you. Yeah, because mid to late 40s is real rocky.
Yeah, well, I would not go back there. So these were great because your give a care goes out the window. By the time you
Yeah,
get 60, you're like, woo you're like a teenager. I've heard the word queenager and I'm going with that.
I love that.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah. Um, but I was working with a client yesterday who's in her thaw state. And she even started going to the doctor because her feet felt like they were on fire. And all the doctors were saying, ain't nothing wrong. We don't know. That her nervous system was coming back online. It's going to be very extreme depending on how long it's been.
I was seeing a somatic therapist this time last year, and she said, "Do you feel your feet?" And I was like, "No, nope, I
Yeah.
don't." And that has been one of the most helpful things is having that cue of like, okay, I'm going to turn my energy back into myself and be here in this body until I can feel the bottom of my feet again. Yeah.
Perfect.
And it's been such a powerful way of like re-anchoring and getting back into the body.
You're getting grounded there. It's absolutely. And she said hers started, I'd given her an assignment because meditation, first, when we are in survival mode, that frontal lobe is not online to do meditation. Don't waste your time with that, right? Until you get
Yes.
yourself starting to thaw. And that's something I think we miss that. I had told her, let's start with a walking meditation, which is very different. You're just outside without your phone. I just want to try and feel my feet hit the ground. I want to see if I can hear the birds. And that's where she started noticing her feet with those feelings. That's a great place to start for the audience, a walking meditation.
Yeah, I really like that. It's interesting as you're saying that, I'm thinking, the floating head of competency and meditation keeps us so much in our head. Right? And until we get to a place where we can let it impact the rest of our body. But movement is such an important way of actually reconnecting to the body. So I love this idea of the walking meditation. Yeah. Without earbuds, right? Without earbuds,
Nothing
yes.
like it's 1970. Just
Yeah.
walk your butt out there with nothing but you. And eventually with friends, but at first you gotta do it alone. This is this is a you thing. This is from the inside out. This is about you. And maybe later you bring a girlfriend in for a walk. 30 minutes, I'm gonna do me then. But it it's very important to take care of you. And I'm a somatic therapist as well. It's the only way we're gonna make a change. You can think we can
Mhm.
think all day long. That's what got me involved. I mean, 30 years ago and doing something behind. And back then it was play therapy. I was like, well, I mean, that was a different modality. We've come a long way with therapies, but we can sit there and talk all day long. BS. You got to get your butt up and do something. So a
Yes.
walking meditation is a great place to start. And for us ladies, we carry, and this is back to chakra psychology. I'm a yoga instructor too, so I bring that into my therapies a lot. So, and I know chakras for some of y'all might sound woo woo. I'm an academic.
Not this girl.
It's researched. Okay, good.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because I have some people look at me like, oh, are you doing, Merriman? But as we start to get embodied, it's very important that we understand our chakras. Our sacral chakra holds a lot of trauma for women. Now, be it sex, be it birth, be it, of course, our emotions hang out there and creative energies and sexual stuff lives there anyway. But I find when I put a lady into like a butterfly pose or something where we're trying to get some movement in that sacral area, a lot of emotion comes up, and that's okay. That's okay. So many of us want to run from that emotion. You got to sit with it. And a lot of I have my ladies start with that walking meditation and also hip circles. Just trying to loosen up, do feel the different energies in your legs. It sounds small, but girl, that's a big place to start.
Yeah, I can attest to that. I started a really consistent yin yoga practice. Like I go to as many yin classes as I can. So for anyone who doesn't know what yin is, it is a very slow, you hold poses for a long time. You're mostly on the floor during it so that your body has the opportunity to actually relax the fascia, the muscles, the joints. Going back to this like hyper virtuous, all of the things, I never would have given myself the time to do that because it wasn't enough.
Well,
That
you're
was my
wasting
mindset.
time.
But it has been one of the most transformative practices I have engaged in. And absolutely, when I'm lying on the floor in butterfly, so many times, like tears are just running down the sides, running down from my eyes into my ears. Like it's just this process of when tissue actually starts to relax, it's also given me a tool to be able to notice, like, am I holding that muscle?
Right.
And what happens when I actually release it? And it's taken probably 8 months of practice to be able to get to the place where I can trust myself enough to release the muscle. And even before that, even to just be aware that I am holding it so tightly.
Because
But
most of us aren't.
yeah, this movement practice has been transformative.
I love that for you. I love that for you. It also trained a technique called bioenergetic therapies, which is and that's one thing that got me interested in yoga. Bioenergetic therapies is about how we hold energy in our body. Wherever a trauma might have happened, well, there's a hold. It's very interesting at the airport. Watch how people hold themselves as they walk. You can really tell. Of course, I don't go bother them, I promise, but I think, ooh, there's some kind of trauma there we need to go. But but as we've been in survival mode for so long, you're absolutely right. We brace. We're bracing for something. That pelvic floor is braced, and it makes sense as you're allowing that fascia to kind of open up because memories are stored there. All kinds of stuff is stored in our tissues. You cannot think your way out of this stuff. We try to do that. And those overachievers of us, and I'm looking at you ladies, we think, oh, I can just think my way out of this. We can't. It's worked for us. Has it?
And
We might have excelled at a career, but has it worked for us?
yeah, I can't remember who it was who said it, but it was, "You can't think your way out of a feeling problem."
Well, you can't. You have to
Yeah.
go through that feeling. Well, and I think it's so cliche, but you have to feel it to heal it. I mean, you have to feel it to heal it.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
we are so good at that's why we bounce right out of our body and into our head. But here's the thing, and I know y'all know this. We produce brain cells in our tummy. Serotonin is produced in our tummy. It's very important to learn a full body scan, to make time for a full body scan and breathe through whatever is happening. A lot of the ladies I work with that are in this virtuous trap, they've swallowed their truth for so long, that throat chakra is just like this, and it goes into their heart, and then they feel resentment. And what happens when we feel resentment? We feel guilt for feeling the resentment. I shouldn't feel that way. Whatever feeling we have is the feeling that we're supposed to have. And I like to have them place their hand on their heart chakra and just breathe into it. I really like a rectangle breath with some noise, the to
Yeah.
get the vagus nerve. We want to tone that vagus nerve. It's fun with a room full of women doing that. It's a bunch of orgasms going on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's powerful. On that note, as I'm realizing we have turned our bodies into fortresses, essentially,
Yeah.
right? So that nothing gets in, nothing comes out, really. And so how do you see that impacting the relationships that we
Oh yeah, girl, that is that. book I just released. It is. It says, "Are we gonna have sex or what?" But it's a midlife guide to reigniting desire, reclaiming your body, and feeling fully alive. So what happens, we have disconnected from so many relationships, not meaning to. Maybe there's a superficial something going on, like, "Well, I'm supposed to say this." But that real, because if you're not feeling, you're not getting deep into relationships. And if you are in survival mode and pleasure is offline, desire is offline. So you're having a lot of obligatory sex where I'm present, but let's just get this done kind of thing. So it's very important to thaw. I mean, thawing is so important to try and reestablish and reclaim some of those. First, your relationship with yourself. I think we bypass that too much. That's the only
Yes.
relationship you're going to have 100% of your life. And we don't honor that, I think, like we need to. Once that's back online and you're really feeling and experiencing and you've excavated your identity, because what I found, we've worked so long, our identity has been buried under my work identity, my mom identity, my, no, who are you? Under all that. Once
Mhm.
that's been excavated, and we work on self-talk. I'm not gonna, I mean, your thought model is very important. That's good old cognitive behavioral therapy. It's very important. But once we
Yes.
get that worked out and you're re-embodied, pleasure's gonna come back online. And pleasure, for those of us that have long-term relationships or even any kind of relationship, and I'm talking we're more of a sexual relationship, pleasure really relies on novelty. And I don't mean, you don't have to read, 500 different new positions. That's not what I'm saying
Yeah.
necessarily. My husband and I just got back from a whirlwind tour over in Europe, which was fun and novel. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. I mean, yeah, by all means, try new positions, um, but it's really important to keep novelty into that relationship. Here's what's going to happen. You've poured all kinds of energy and identity into those babies. And if we've raised them the way we want to raise them, we want them to flourish. So they leave us, right? I mean, we've raised them to leave us.
No, it's so hard. Right, like, we raised them to be functioning humans in the world, and so my oldest is now 21, and the other day he was saying how he wanted to live in Europe, and I was like, "I'm afraid that if you go to Europe, I'm never gonna see you again." Like,
Yeah.
and we sort of broached that conversation because he is so independent.
Yeah.
And while I love watching him be a human in the world and doing the things he's doing, it also, going back to our early, it's this sense of abandonment of like, this life that I created is leaving.
Right.
And there's so much, there's grief in that for us.
You've got to grieve that. Absolutely. Well, what, I mean, my boys, they're in their 40s. And I remember now they're over six, they're big old huge boys, 6'2", 6'3", big old.
Mine too. Yeah. Same.
Yeah. Oh, I remember, them being 2 years old and having to hold my hand everywhere. And now, well, of course, we went to Costa Rica as a family just a couple, right before we went to Europe. We've had a good year, but
Yeah.
it was fun and we wanted to go zip lining. I'm terrified of heights. I'm going to tell you I'm terrified of heights, but I didn't want to be left out. I wanted to go do this. And I'm having a full blown nervous breakdown. Like, I cannot do this. And these two big bruising boys that I held in my arms came to me so gentle, so loving. They held me. Mama, it's going to be, you don't have to do it, Mama, but here, oh, Mama, I'll hold your hand. I mean, they got
Yeah.
me regulated. Their mirror neurons kicked in, got me regulated, and I ziplined and had a hell of a good time. And I've digressed when we're going. I'm sorry, but
No.
we're talking about kids and how important they are to us. And at one point, they're so dependent on us. And now we raise them to leave. We want them to have their own good lives. Then we've been in marriages. I've been married for 35 years. Fortunately, we've maintenanced it and it's a very healthy relationship. But a lot of gals I work with, they look and go, him?
Yeah,
He's
who
the
even
one
is
at
this
home?
person, right? Yeah. But what I wanted to connect to what you were just saying there, when you were talking about novelty in a relationship, Sometimes it just can be even like new ways that we talk and communicate with each other. And when you were describing, that sort of that care and compassion, I think it's important for men to hear that is the most powerful part of masculinity. It's
And what an
not this.
aphrodisiac.
Yes, it is not this gross power over, like, example that we're seeing all over the place right now. That is not what makes us form attachment. It's not what ignites our desire. It is not what makes us want to have, conversation where we feel open and vulnerable enough to, like, say the things that we need to say. It's this approach of, like, "I am here and I will hold you." Right? You are safe here. It's the deep kindness and the masculinity that can look you in the eye and make real connection so that when you look there, you know, I am safe here.
And that's what your body needs. That is an aphrodisiac. That helps your root system balance, your sacral chakra balance, and pleasure to come online. We are not going to thrive in life unless we feel safe in our body. It's a safe place to be home in. And absolutely, masculinity to me, and my husband's very good at this, and he was a I mean, he's had brain cancer and he had to retire recently, but he was a state trooper here in Texas, which and he's a farmer and a rancher, and I mean, which a typical very masculine kind of field, but he is the most compassionate man who knows when I'm in my little flippy to come and just hold me, just
Yeah.
that I'm not gonna fix it. I'm just gonna hold you. He can that resonated that
Yeah, I don't need you to fix. I
no.
just need you to be here with me.
Yeah,
Right?
and when I am in this state of my nervous system, you cannot fix me, so just hold me and let me feel safe, and he can cry in front of me, and he can be tender with our children. It's just and I watch him with our cattle. If I were a cow, I would want to be his.
Yeah.
They see him and they're so happy and he gives them all kinds of treats, and I mean, yes, masculinity is the feminine energy and masculinity is very important, very important. That needs to be balanced as well, and that's gonna help the woman you're with regulate her nervous system as well, because she feels safe to be vulnerable and have those really scary conversations. I've done a lot of marriage therapy over the years, and which is one thing that gave me the idea for my new book. I've been surprised how many couples and I'm talking they've been married 20 something years. They don't talk about sex. They don't know how to talk about sex. They don't have the words to talk about sex. And you're having sex together and you're not enjoying it? What?
Yeah. I know. It's as I was thinking more through that, analogy of our bodies as fortresses, like that's sex is the literal breaking of that boundary, right? Of actually entering this fortress. And
Yeah,
when we don't have the language to talk about what we need to feel good and feel safe in that, of course, we are in this cycle of constantly figuring out ways of, like, keeping the fortress safe.
absolutely. And that causes that pelvic floor to be really braced, and that's gonna
Yeah.
get in the way of orgasm and pleasure because you're not opening. Your body isn't opening to what you need to open to. It It's an interesting how all that ties back to our nervous system and being able to regulate that.
So, are there tools that you help give couples that they can regulate together so that they get into these spaces where they can have this conversation that
Yeah,
creates this safety?
absolutely. One thing, the very first thing I like to do is have them sit on the floor with their legs crossed back to back and regulate their breathing together. That's a really powerful, just let's get in sync with each other. Another rule I give, I think this one's really important. When you finally start to talk about what you want and don't want in the bedroom, what actually feels good, your clothes need to be on and you need to be at the kitchen table or somewhere other than the bedroom naked in a very vulnerable kind of place. You don't want blame and shame to come up. And shame, that's something I really have to work with women. A lot of times there's a lot of shame around sex, around participating in sex, enjoying sex, being naughty with sex. I mean, exploratory
Yes.
with sex.
Yeah. No, I know. I co-host another podcast called Unmuted, and we recently had Susan Bratton on,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah. You've done a lot of research.
she's incredible. And so that episode has just come out, and there's a clip of me talking that has just recently been on social media, and it, like, even though I am so inspired by that conversation and I own what I said, still am like, "Well, that's out there."
Sure.
Yeah, like, even though, like, being in this community, so that podcast is, there's a community of women who host it together. So
Nice.
we're in this community. It's incredibly beautiful and powerful. The message of Susan was amazing, and it felt like the sucker punch of, "Oh, people are gonna see this about me." It's been a really interesting mirror for myself to know where I still need to, do some work and figure out where I can do more letting go.
What a gift. What a gift. Self-awareness is the most beautiful thing we can accomplish. And everything we're talking about, when you boil it down, it's self-awareness and self-compassion. But that's beautiful that you had that mirror come up for you. And those are old messages. That's probably some inner child work, some very old messages. I like to have people do a sex timeline, if you will. It's kind of an archaeology dig of your sex life, starting with where did you learn about sex? What kind of messages did your parents, did your grandparents, did your caretakers give you about sex? Well, I mean, when we really dissect that timeline, it's fascinating. And it adds up to how we feel about sex, how we respond to sex.
Yes, and the generational nature of that as well. Have you had people do their personal timeline, but then also think back to, what is the generational healing that is happening now as well?
Absolutely, that is part of it. We wanna start early on, like, if whatever they might know about their ancestors, because sometimes they don't know, but whatever they might know about their ancestors is important to include in that timeline. Because that all adds up, and it's not just in our brain, some of that's in our DNA. I mean, Lord knows what happened in 1710 to one of our ancestors. I mean, I don't know, maybe some of mine got burned as a witch. I don't know. I mean, just think how women were treated
Absolutely.
historically. We have a lot more rights and a lot more, sass than, even my mother, who was born in 1941. She's in her 80s now, but she was of that generation where, burning their bras. I don't know if there was a commercial, I think it was Charlie, perfume back in the '70s, but I can bring home the bacon. We thought we could be superwoman women and do it all, and sadly, we've passed that on, and I think our new generation who realizes that I'm talking like my granddaughter is 16 now and above, they realize that internally we need to be pretty sound, and I don't have to do everything, but I thought I did.
Yes. And I think this is where those intergenerational conversations are so important because I also have a 16-year-old girl in my life who I love dearly. Conversations with her are so enlightening for me because she has also articulated that. She's like, "Yeah, I don't wanna do what you guys did. Look at you.
Y'all are crazy.
Look at what you've done to yourself. I don't want that for myself." And I was like, "Good. I'm glad you are learning from us and we can
That's
have
right.
this conversation." Because there is wisdom to go both ways.
Yeah.
We made some decisions that I'm glad you're learning. There also is some great wisdom that we have to give you
And
around autonomy and being fully yourself in this very social media world that they live in. But that intergenerational conversation is, I think, so key to doing some of that generational healing.
oh, it's beautiful, and if any of you ladies still have your great-grandmother or your grandmother, go talk to them. Understand what it was like for them. And mama, she and my mom is a hot mess. She abandoned the family when I was 10 to go, and she ran off with a rock and roll band when I was 10. From the PTA president to running a rock band. It was and my daddy, who was an engineer, Bell Helicopter, they couldn't have been more different. He's left with 3 kids, like, but, I mean, but mother and I, we've done our work, and I take care of her now, but she's only recently opened up about she and daddy divorced when I was 10, and she has said, "Your daddy and I, sex wasn't the problem." I love that.
Yes.
But if you could talk to all those great aunts, whoever, get their history, understand that. Because the more I'm around Mother now, because there are a lot of years I wasn't, I really understand a lot more about me. I'm like, "Oh, that's where that comes from."
Yes, absolutely. So, what is the key message that you want people to take away from your book that they can implement and start getting some healing so that they can make those deeper connections?
I'm thinking there's so many.
Take it's all good.
I think my main message, ex you're not over. You know, best is yet to come. I'm telling you, I am living so much more fully in my 60s than I did in my 40s because I'm very aware. I own my time now. Excavate yourself. Have a homecoming. And that might mean thawing and it might be a little uncomfortable, but it's worth it.
I love that, have a homecoming. Yeah, it's really beautiful. If you think about, you've been living outside of yourself, you've created this fortress. Let's just soften it and come home to ourselves and connect to all of those pieces. Just one of the things I've been doing is really sitting with the versions of myself who I didn't love enough at the time, and just, like, looking at the miracle that that girl was, and if it's the littler version of me, like, really holding her, and so, "You're safe here, you're safe now," the teenage version of myself, like, "You were incredible, and I see you and I value you." It's never too late to come home to yourself and pour love into those pieces of you that need it.
Man, that is so true. So true. I love you're doing that for you. And that's something everyone listening should do. Every one of us need that inner child work. Everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Julie, thank you so much for this conversation. It was very good for my nervous system. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity. It was lovely to spend some time with you.
Thank you for hanging out with me on Transforming 45. If you laughed, nodded, or had an oh wow moment, hit follow and share it with your favorite midlife human. Find me on Instagram at lboat and keep those transformations coming.
Electricast.